counterterrorism coordinator at the Department of Homeland Security. John, thanks for joining us here in St. Louis.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
All right, so what did Andrew McCabe do that was so offensive that would get him fired hours before he was set to retire?
Well, the short answer to the question is we don't really know yet, because aside from a short statement issued by the Attorney General, the Inspector General, whose actions the firing is based on, hasn't finalized or released their report. So, but you've hit on two issues that are really important here. This is highly unusual. Excuse me, in the sense that they accelerated the disciplinary action taken against Andy McCabe, firing him, as you pointed out, just hours before his retirement, depriving him of his pension, and doing so in a way that deprived him of his due process. And, of course, the commentary on Andy McCabe and this incident by the White House, whether it's through the president's tweets or through Sarah Sanders, the White House press secretary, calling this career civil servant a bad actor. Those two reasons are why there's so many questions about the motivation behind his firing.
They keep talking about this report. Are they ever going to release this report?
Well, from what I understand, the report is supposed to come out later in the spring. But, again, what's unusual about this is typically in matters such as this, the finalized Inspector General report would come out. There would be recommendations that would be made based on that final report. The person involved in the situation, in this case Andy McCabe, would be given an opportunity to respond to what was put into the Inspector General's report, and then a decision is made. In this case, much of that didn't happen, in particular Andy McCabe being able to respond to what the IG has reported.
Do we know if Donald Trump sort of orchestrated this? We know he's a fan of it because he tweeted about it, but did he orchestrate this to happen? In other words, did he tell Sessions to do this? And if he did, isn't that crossing some type of line?
Well, if the White House or directly the president directed the Attorney General to take this type of action, that would be highly unusual and unprecedented. There's always been a separation between the political part of the federal government and actions taken against career civil servants or the actions more broadly of a law enforcement organization. So we don't know that that occurred, which is what's making his continuous tweets, both this weekend and prior, so frankly bizarre, because in a sense, even if he did not have direct conversations, he's creating the strong perception that he was trying to influence this action, which, again, would be unprecedented and highly problematic.
Now, Andrew McCabe is now fired. Does he have any restrictions on what he can and can't say?
No, he's not an employee of the federal government. He obviously can't disclose classified information because that would be a crime. But he is open to being able to, or he is freer to make comments about what he's observed, what he saw, and in particular, I think if this issue isn't resolved through some type of an appeal process, I suspect we're going to see more public statements either through his lawyer or directly from Andy McCabe himself.
There's also a story out there that says that there are some Democrats who are looking to offer Andrew McCabe a job in the quote-unquote federal government long enough for him to reach whatever retirement status he needs. Is that possible?
Sure, because in order to qualify for a full pension, it's a combination of age and time in service. And literally by his firing just hours before his retirement was supposed to take effect, he is several hours short or several days short of having that time in service. So his working for any federal agency or federal entity, in this case it would be a congressional office, would give him that time in service that would allow him to receive his pension and his health insurance benefits.
So really all they did was upset this guy and not really hurt him in any way except just make a big giant scene out of nothing.
Well, I mean, I guess it's a matter of perspective. I mean, this is a guy who I know. I used to work with when I was the counterterrorism coordinator at DHS. He was always a very level-headed, fair, ethical, thoughtful person, nonpartisan. He's dedicated his life to protecting this country, and for months now, he has been the target of very humiliating, very derisive, very insulting tweets by the President of the United States. And there is a possibility that he will not win on any type of appeal. And here's a person who has dedicated his life to public service, who now will be deprived of the pension typically given to people, civil servants, career officials, who did. So, I mean, it's a very disturbing, as somebody who's spent most of his life in government and who's worked for Republicans and Democrats, this is highly disturbing. And, I think anybody in this country, whether you be a Republican or Democrat, has to be concerned when fundamental checks and balances seem to be being degraded. And that's what we have here.
John Cohn, ABC News consultant. Thank you for your time, sir.